something very good happened to me.
Oh.
All the way from the Ukraine, the war-torn Ukraine. It's back, baby. It's back.
Oh, it's back. The NES Everdrive.
The NES Everdrive. So, just a quick recap if you hadn't been following along. EJ and I went on an Everdrive shopping spree around December. So I bought the N64 one, the Sega one, and the NES one. And what did you buy?
Oh, I already had the NES one, so I got the Super Nintendo, Mega Drive, and I just made a video about the X Station, which is a similar project.
And you already had NES. So, yeah, I got mine in. I was playing it on. It was fine. I was playing it on my top loader. And like 2 days in, it just stopped functioning properly. And the N64 one's been great. The Sega one's been great. And so I was like, what do I do? Like, it took like a month and a half for this thing to arrive. The Ukraine is in the situation that it's in. But it's a $250 item. And I'd like to get it repaired.
Does it smell like gunpowder and invasions?
Why does it smell like gunpowder?
It smells like sauerkraut.
You know, they've actually tweeted, you know, pictures of like, hey, like the factory's still open, like we're on UPS power, but you know, so they've got their problems out there. You don't want to be giving them shit about Everdrives.
Why didn't they send it yet?
I have waited 3 weeks in the United States of America. But I think the reason was because I had like those old consoles are really sensitive to if you use the wrong power brick for them, right?
Yeah.
So I had one. I think I was using like a third party one because I had lost my original at some point, and then I was like, oh crap, it's probably that. And yeah, I think what I didn't realize was that these Everdrives draw way more power than a standard cart does. And so I left it on all night one time, and I think it blew it up. And so they had me do a lot of troubleshooting that I knew would be fruitless. And then they were like, "You'll send the cart back, we fix it, okay? But it have to shipping has to be $16 US, or else they'll reject it." And so I was trying to track the customs number, and it was in like I don't know. It was in some Middle Eastern country for a long time, like months. And I was like, I'm never going to see my Everdrive ever again, am I?
The Russians have your Everdrive. They send you a cell phone picture of it.
Like Stone Age Gamer, I'm looking at a Q&A where they ask, is Krikkz okay? Yes, he and his family made it out of Ukraine safely. So he's actually not in Ukraine anymore.
Well, the factories are still in Ukraine.
Yeah, the rest of the team is still in Ukraine. This was posted on his Twitter account. Let's actually read. What did Krikkz say? I'm with family currently in Spain. Spain is one of my favorite countries. I already had Spain residence card. You have to read it in the accent. I have a friend, my friend Sophie, who like left the USSR long ago. and yeah, like the thing about that, people who are like Russian speaking natively, they drop articles. They don't say thes and us as often. So I remember she was like, "What is the old commercial? Where is beef?" I just remember that. I remember too, she if a word ends with O, like we don't talk about Bruno, she'll pronounce it like we don't talk about Bruno.
Beautiful Bruno.
Or porna.
Porna.
Guy, wish I brought some porna.
I used to work with Sophie, so that's really hilarious.
From time to time, I lived and worked in Spain, so some of my products partially designed in Spain. I had released from the military service, so I was able to cross the border, but rest of the team still in Ukraine. There's a lot of families feeded by the Everdrive business. They leave their homes, they lost income, but this situation isn't unique just for our team, whole country in such troubles, but we all still alive, at least this days it is enough to be happy. I'd like to say a few words about what happened in my city early in the morning on February 24th. My wife woke me up and said that the war had begun. I heard explosions somewhere in the distance and could not believe the reality of what was happening. First days, Russians entered the city a few times, but that was eliminated. One of the columns of Russian military equipment was destroyed not far from my house and 1 kilometer from me. Then their jets started bombing infrastructure objects to leave city without warm electrics and water. Then they start bombing residential areas, killing civilians. When strong explosions were heard somewhere nearby, my 2.5-year-old daughter said, "What are these pops? I'm scared, Papa." Can you imagine, like, if you were going along one day, making your Everdrives, and then you're like, "Oh, we got to go to Spain."
Yeah. No, it's nuts.
Holy shit. How do you suppose they got out of it? I mean, wouldn't the Russians have? How did they get out of there?
You just, I don't know, just go. Get out.
Yeah, just whatever you can do. Right?
Yeah, you're going to do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a family, young family, you're going to, I'd do anything.
Well, so hopefully that infuses this with a lot of meaning. But it works great, and it's just such fun to play. Like there's really no other way to play Little Samson, for instance, on an original NES.
Ukraine, you escaped Ukraine so that you could play Little Samson.
Or like that thing where you can use 2 controllers to play like Smash TV on the NES.
Right.
You're gonna need an Everdrive, or you're gonna have to hunt down a cartridge.
And you could there's like a ROM of Duck Hunt where it builds in delay for your LCD monitor.
Oh wow!
So you could play Duck Hunt on an LCD monitor. I think
you gotta love quality of life ROM hacks, right? Those are the best.
Speaking of video game things, my Switch Pro controller kind of bit the dust. So I saw a video by our friend. Not friend, but Retro Game Core, Russ from Retro Game.
We wish our friend.
I wish he can come on this podcast because I love the man. He's probably like the most he's like a gentle beast on the internet. Well, by chance, my Pro controller, the clicky left stick clicky, you know how there's a button there?
Yeah.
It stopped working. And I was like, I need, because you use that a lot in Pokemon. So I got this one. This one works for the Switch really well. I would say the ergonomics this is the 8-bit Do. What is it called? Ultimate controller. And this is
and you like it better than the first party Nintendo Wi-Fi Pro controller?
Well, I would say the ergonomics are worse than the Pro controller, but I think everything else is better. And I like this it has a little charging dock that you put it on, and I like how it's like flush, so it's like one, like the dock is very flush.
Great. Yeah,
it's very nice well designed.
That's the kind of that's the kind of quality we've come to expect from 8-bit Do.
But yeah, everything's great. I've been playing with it a lot, so I highly recommend any of 8-bit Do's offerings.
Well, you know what? I take your 8-bit Do and I raise you a Retro Fighter. I have not. I haven't really gone outside of first party and 8-bit Do, but here's what happened. That guy who sent me all of those Dreamcast repros, I was like, if I'm going to be playing Dreamcast, I don't want to play on the crappy original controller. We can all admit this was a bad controller. They got the wires sticking out of the bottom. It's shaped like an idiot. So Retro Fighter makes one, and this is what it looks like.
Oh, yeah.
And it feels awesome.
It's like a regular controller.
It's just what you want, really. I mean, this is nice stuff. And, of course, it'll house your VMU. And I don't think it was that expensive. I want to say it was like $20, something like that. And it's wired.
Yeah. And this one, just another thing is that this controller, the Ultimate, has a Hall sensing joystick, so it won't experience drift over time. So that's very, very nice.
See,
especially
that's
with the Switch has all those drift problems with all the Joy-Cons and stuff, so that's nice.
So I mean, that's not a cheap controller. I bet I'm going to guess $55.
70.
Yeah.
Because it's the same price as the Switch Pro controller,
right.
But also the D-pad's better. The D-pad's way better than the Switch.
Yeah.
The Switch has the Pro controller is an awful D-pad.
Well, do you ever get remarketed things on social media so many times that you give in? You go, okay, I do need it. In fact, there's all kinds of research about it. Like on the 20th time, you're like, I'll get it.
I'll definitely consider it more, but I think the things that I've actually clicked and bought from that is very low, if I've gotten anything at all.
Well, just like there's an N64 Retro Fighter controller. I saw it a million times. I was like, that looks a lot better. But I couldn't bring myself to I don't need to level up the N64 controller. But once I bought this thing, I was like, dude, just do it. And so look.
Oh, how is it? Have you used it so
amazing.
far?
It's Wi-Fi too, by the way.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I can't stand wired controllers anymore. Like even for my CRT, which is on my desk, and of course the wire's literally like inches away from could be inches away. I want wireless because I'm just so sloppy with my controllers now. I gotta ask, flailing around.
I gotta ask you a question. I remember your NES Classic, and when you did a review of the NES Mini Classic, and you said, like, I'll put it on my desktop, and it'll be right there on my little TV and stuff. I'll tell you where my mini consoles are, from the Sega ones to the NES ones. I've got this big, right behind me is an ottoman that you can put stuff in, and I just shove mini consoles into it to die, because I'm just all Everdrive, baby. All Everdrive.
Yeah, the Everdrive didn't exist, or it did exist, but I didn't want to deal with it. Yeah, they're all in a tote in the basement. And so I have all my original consoles set up. They all have Everdrives. They're right at my desk. And they're all hooked up easily to that CRT. So I don't need those mini consoles anymore, because it feels more authentic, if you got the CRT experience.
There's something about it, for sure.
The other thing about my CRT is I talked about how I wanted a headphone jack on it. And I did it. I actually installed my own. I ordered all the supplies off of Amazon, and I opened it up. I soldered on a headphone jack to the insides, and I filmed all of it. So I'm thinking about doing kind of a ASMR type video. Maybe I'll put it on the Red Cow Arcade channel, because there are some people who watch my other PlayStation ones, like, oh, I could just watch you just talk while soldering all day,
I think that those PlayStation
ASMR
videos
thing
may have been the first time that the Red Cow Arcade audience saw a solo EJ video. The first time.
Yeah, and it seemed they did pretty well, and people responded positively to them. So maybe I'll do a special ASMR talking, soldering. Would you like that? Let me know if you'd like that in the comments, wherever the hell this is.
My instinct is, every time you do food, put it on the main channel. Every time you do video games, put it on the arcade channel. Unless you can find creative ways to cross-post both, and then suck it all up.
But then you can double dip, because I don't think the audiences cross. I mean, it got like over 1,000 views on the main channel, and each of them got like 1,000 views, because I split it up, which I think might not be a bad way to go, especially if I do like lengthy retrospectives, which I like to do. So,
speaking of lengthy retrospectives, I came across a YouTube video the other day, very small YouTuber named Josh O'Grady. And I think he's in his late 20s, maybe. So maybe like 10 years younger than us. And the titles of the video is called, "I Respect the NES, I Just Don't Like It." And the mini console thing is what made me think of this. Because he didn't grow up with an NES. And so he had to kind of go back to let's see if this thing's any good. And to this day, he doesn't have an NES, and it doesn't sound like he emulates. He just has a mini console. He just has the NES Mini. So he's judging the entire library of the NES based on that. And he goes through each game. Ironically, so the thesis of his video is, these are okay games, but the SNES did it so much better that you'd have to have nostalgia glasses to like any of this. I get too lost in Zelda. Mario 2 is too weird. Okay, fine. Mario 3 is really good. Okay, fine. Kirby Adventures is really good. Ends up conceding that a ton of these games are great. So I think he undermines his own point by the end of the video. But the underlying question I have for us is, do you think that you can judge the NES as a console based off of the mini console alone?
It's a pretty good representation.
You got your Ninja Gaiden. You got your whatever Tropic. What's the one?
The Star Tropics.
Star Tropics.
You got the Zeldas on there. You got the Marios. I think it actually does have a pretty. It's got Mega Man 2, I think, on there, right?
Yeah, Mega Man 2 and no other Mega Man. But my thing is no Ninja Turtles, no DuckTales, no Chip and Dale, no Tiny Toons. No. No, does it have Castlevania 3? I think it just
it doesn't. It has Castlevania 2, which is the worst one. Right?
Yeah. So there's a lot of gradient in the NES library that you're missing out on.
It's true. You could to temper my initial response, it'll give you a feel of what the NES is, but you're not going to get some of the best, especially licensed game. Those licensed games or part of the experience.
Yeah, I'm looking at my library as we speak. I'm trying to think if there's anything, because I probably wouldn't put like, Bugs Bunny's Crazy Castle amongst the list or anything. But there's actually a lot of really good arcade ports for the NES that nobody ever really talks about, like Breakthrough, and of course you can play Defender, you can play Arkanoid, you can play Pac-Man, of course, Donkey Kong. Like Donkey Kong is on that collection, but you get a lot out of if you have an EverDrive and a top loader, you've got a much different experience than you do on the classic. But yeah, if you were brand new to the NES and you needed Mario 3 and Zelda 1 and a few others, I suppose it would get you there. I like the product a lot. The product is a lot of fun.
And I think you can hack it pretty easily and add stuff to it. So.
Yeah, true. But I just don't think that like, how people love the NES? Like I love the NES. I think you love the NES. I don't think that like the love is self-evident from just that little kind of turnkey experience alone.
That's true. And I think it is more self-evident with Super Nintendo because it's just like, oh, these are way more playable, and these, you definitely have to dig a little bit deeper than that NES Classic library to see what because you got a lot of those arcade ports, and they're great. I like them. I like Galaga, but I think you'd be like, oh, this is just an arcade port. It's like a little bit better than a phone game, maybe.
But that's like that's what made an NES library when you were a child. Was like you had some first party titles, you had some flagship titles, then you had mixed in there some arcade ports. Like that was kind of what you had some licensed games. It's kind of what made an NES experience complete. At some point I want to play like Family Feud on the SNES with my family. Like we played Jeopardy a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Strangely enough. But yeah, it's by the time you get to Sega Genesis, you get to like Aladdin and Sonic and Knuckles and stuff.
Yeah, it's self-evident, the greatness there.
Yeah, exactly. I've been trying to get into Kid Chameleon on the Genesis, and I want to dig into that a little heavier.
Yeah, I don't remember. I remember not liking that one. It's like he like changes into stuff, and it's kind of it feels a little janky to me.
I worry that I'll get lost.
Yeah, it's one of those. I
don't want to get lost. Fucking get me through this.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.